everybody. I'm Yeka, and I'm here with Brian. He's here to share his success story with us. How's it going, Brian?
It's going great over here.
Great. So tell me a little bit about your health before you were on the carnivore diet.
Okay, well, I guess I was be classified as a traditional bodybuilding style diet with chicken, rice, and broccoli. I probably ate that 5 or 6 times a day for a better part of 2 years. I think has a lot of repercussions. Had a lot of repercussions for my health, but yeah, just a lot of meal frequency, very high carbohydrate, low fat. I'll try to sneak in some like a Quest bar or something, but a dirtier version of that for sure. And just trying to find, if I didn't have that on hand, just trying to find food from any kind of quote unquote healthy food source I could, if that would be a snack bar or just anything really. I was very uninformed in my diet, just trying to keep everything low fat and monitoring my macros.
Okay. And so what were your macros like? Just high carb, high protein?
Yes, high carb, high protein, because everything I was reading was saying, having success pushing it low as fat as possible. And I clearly wasn't on any keto blogs, or certainly not carnivore blogs at that time. But yes, very high protein and very high carbohydrates.
And did you have any health issues, or were you tired all the time? How were you feeling most days?
So I'd say that I would be tired. So this was during my college years, and I was basically mega dosing on caffeine. I was probably having about 800 milligrams of caffeine per day, which is, I think, standard now if you're in college, but it's not good. But yeah, so that was just a general sense of lethargy. I had I'd have really bad stress acne at times. The biggest thing I noticed was that I'd always have a lot of very small tears. So I'd played college sports, and so I had a lot of hamstring tears. I had a lot of pulls, sprains, etc. So those two things are probably the biggest things from when I was pre-carnivore, I'd say.
And so how long did you eat that way?
I was probably doing that for clean whole foods eating for about four or 5 years or so. Because before that, it was whatever was within arm's reach. I didn't really have that kind of nutritional upbringing whatsoever.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about how you came across carnivore. What got you into the carnivore?
So I actually first heard about carnivore when I was listening to Mark Bell's Power Podcast. He had Dr. Paul Saladino on, and it was the Paul Saladino-Layne Norton debate, which is probably one of my favorite episodes. If no one's ever heard of that, definitely check it out. I think it's about an hour and a half long, but it's great. Layne gets super frustrated, and I love it when that happens. But I was just doing that, and while I was listening to that podcast while I was doing a side gig. I was doing deliveries for Instacart when I was still in college, to earn some extra money. And I heard it, and I'm thinking, this is absolutely insane. Why would I try it? I'm sure a lot of people think that, because at the time I was kind of delving into keto. I was delving into keto, just because I read some books, because that's, I wanted to see what would happen if I tried to change some stuff. And as I was doing keto and everything, I was still trying to do the macros, and then I was eating a lot of nuts. Sometimes I've had protein, but whenever I wanted to push the fat intake up, it'd be some kind of nut butter or whole milk or something. And it's still staying with my lean proteins, which looking back on it makes absolutely no sense if I'm trying to push fat up. So it's still a lot of chicken and ground turkey, which aren't very satisfying. And then as I just sat around and thought about it, I was thinking, if I heard about this carnivore thing, and I'm currently doing keto, why am I trying to enforce? Because I'm trying to put plant sources in everything. Like for me, it was asparagus because I had 4 years of broccoli. I'm like, I never want to eat broccoli again. It's so unappetizing. And I'm just trying to put these plant sources in, these nut sources in, into all my foods to increase fiber. Because I also had some horrible digestive issues at this time because I wanted to get in a lot of plant proteins, but still wanted to be in fat. So it was a lot of black beans. Like it was probably about 100 grams or so fiber. It was an absolutely absurd amount of fiber. No one liked to work with me at all. It was awful. And I just kept doing that and doing that until I sat down and I was thinking, need to push the fat higher, and I really enjoy eating the meat. So why don't I just try to introduce more and more meat sources? And then so I started doing that. So I'm here in Texas, so it's very easy to get some great food around here. So I buy probably 15, 20-pound briskets and just shave it off because these are completely untrimmed, the Packer style, so it's got a fat cap about that thick on every single piece. And I just started eating that and going to the butcher and getting steaks and just eating that. Still monitoring like my fat protein intake approximately, still keeping that high. And it was really cool because from that I lost a bunch of it on the waist. I was sitting about 235, and it was just impossible for me to get any lower. Plus, I was constantly bloated, so I was 235, but I felt like I was about 260. And so, bloating decreased, weight decreased after a while, and food just made more sense. Food and nutrition just made more sense. It was less of magic and smoke and mirrors, and more like, this is more simple than I've been led to believe.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely think it's probably one of the easiest ways to get all your nutrients in, without any tracking, and, basically just eat what your body is craving.
Right. And I've done tracking and non-tracking. I'm more of a tracking person just because that fits to my personality. And also some body comp goals, but I've done it either way. And it's not like, if you don't track and you eat a lot, I found that you'll still feel really good. But if you're on a mixed diet or if it fits your macros or anything, and if you don't track and you overeat, one, you eat a lot of calories without even realizing it, and you're still hungry. And second, like I never feel satisfied if I'm eating like a carbohydrate fat diet. Like I could probably sit down and eat about 3 extra large pizzas from Domino's and have in the past. So you go over calories super easily, but you try to sit down and eat like 3 pounds of steak or anything. And first of all, it's difficult to cook that much unless you have a very large amount. Or you go to a Brazilian steakhouse and then you're eating that meal over the span of 2 hours, which is really fun, but it's not super practical. It's also very expensive. So
Yeah, definitely. And it is really hard to overeat on meat. And I know some people can overeat it, but for most people, I definitely think it's really hard. Even if you cook a whole brisket, like you can't eat a whole brisket. I'm in Texas too. Where in Texas are you?
I'm in Houston.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm from Houston. I'm in Austin now, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Nice. So, how was it transitioning to carnivore? Did you come up with any issues, or was it pretty easy making the switch?
So probably the biggest issue was just digestion and all kind of bowel movements, everything like that. Probably didn't have any. It was not fun. It was not fun. That probably lasted about 3 weeks or so, and it was odd for me because before that I had IBS and like leaky gut, and it was horrible. And then going to carnivore, it was the exact opposite. It went from like once every 3 days I'd have a movement to like 3 times a day on carnivore, and then afterwards, like where I am now, it's a lot more stable and I'm not having to run to the restroom back then. But that was the biggest transition area, and I think that's pretty common in terms of a negative side effect. The positive side effect of it was that so I'm a consultant, so I have a very hectic work schedule, and getting in meals is multiple meals a day is definitely a luxury unless you're incredibly well prepared. So I would just eat these. I just whenever for breakfast before I go to work, I just eat a large amount of eggs, a large amount of sausage or T-bone steak, whatever it was. I was really a fan of T-bone when I was transitioning for some reason. I think it was the bone, but I would just eat a lot of that, and then I would go to work and I come back and I feel completely fine. Whereas before I would get about 2 o'clock or something, and I would be going to the shared pantry where it was nothing but high sugar snack bars from like Nature Valley, which are incredibly delicious. They do a good job of making them delicious, and then some other items. But carnivore, it was, and energy levels are also positive side effect. Were very stable. I didn't really have a 2 o'clock bonk like I would, because it's always between 2 and 3 where I have to take a nap. But when I became stricter carnivore, got more of the plant products and everything out of my system, carbohydrates out of my system, and was the depth. I think it was about a month or so, right when I was about to get transition to a ketone metabolism. Definitely better energy wise, and steadier energy wise for sure once transition.
That's awesome. And so is that all the benefits that you noticed since you went carnivore? And you said it took about a month to really start feeling everything?
Mm-hmm. That was when I was transitioning, that's one of the benefits I've noticed now. Back then, what I've noticed now is that maybe not like a physiological benefit, but definitely like a knowledge benefit. So I've been carnivore for a little over a year now, and I will, experiment adding some stuff back in. And when I do that, my body responds in certain ways, responds in ways to different items and everything like that. And it was really kind of a whole benefit from the experience was that kind of guiding me on this like journey to understanding more about my health and making it less of a mystery and magic. And that came to, I'd have, I have like thinning and receding hair. Like, what can I do? Like, what can I do holistically, everything to make that better? So, found out, consume collagen. Where do you get collagen? You get collagen from bones, cartilage tissues, skin, nails, everything. So I was like, okay, what sources are those? Beef feet, chicken talons, chicken beaks, anything that's basically harder on animal, tendons, ligaments. Those are also good for the 1.5 million muscle tears I had in college, but I don't think healed properly, and I'd still have them. I used to have them before going on the carnivore. And so, I found like all these little things I wish were better or I wish could help, and I would see what's a holistic way of bringing them back in. And, I'd want to learn more about that, more about it from a food perspective, but also I use the food perspective as a launching point into, hey, what is proper etiquette, like what is proper and like sleep hygiene, like meal timing, intermittent fasting, water source consumption, toxin exposure in the environment. So it was a very much of a waterfall effect, which is cascaded into different benefits down the road. And another one that benefit that's more prevalent now is I don't really have this. I didn't really have a brain fog back then, but I would get so lethargic where it's just like I don't want to do anything at all. And if you're doing something you don't enjoy, you get like that naturally anyway. But that was another thing. But I think just carnivore, using it as like the gateway to understanding more about my health, understanding more about the factors around us affecting our personal health, and just kind of self-experimentation has probably been the best benefit from the diet for myself.
Yeah, I agree. I think carnivore, it's a really good baseline to just kind of start at the bottom. It's like a good elimination diet, and you get your body all cleaned up by eating that way for a little while. And then, if you are interested in self-experimentation, it's really easy to see what certain different aspects you add back in, see how they react with your body.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a great reset. So you try that. You try like I'm adding in. I added in honey about 6 months ago because I wanted some carbohydrates because I felt like I performed slightly better on if I did some like timed carbohydrates. But then for some reason I get like a rash on my face, and I don't know why. I don't know why it was. And I was doing organic raw honey, so I don't know what it was. I won't even touch anything if it's not organic now. I've become that kind of person. But but the funny thing is, so that was about 6 months ago or so. I started adding it back in about 3 weeks or so. 3 weeks or so after I heard Dr. Paul Saladino's podcast with the continuous glucose monitoring and seeing how he was incorporating it. So I was like, and I wanted to make sure that I could my metabolism was being efficient with both carbohydrates and ketones, and so I had to start adding that back in. But it was it was no like face rash this time, no itchiness. So there's still some mystery, but it's always like the carnivore diet is definitely best baseline you can possibly get.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I've seen that with a lot of other people too, just from people I've known online and through coaching, and myself personally, where I would try to reintroduce something. I had a negative side effect, but now that I've been doing carnivore for a little over 3 years now, I
Wow.
recently added back in some things just like after around the 3-year mark. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, my body could handle it way better than it could in the first year where I did it. So, I just think, healing takes a really long time. The time that, varies from person to person. Everybody's health is different, but, healing does take a really long time. And, sometimes you can't introduce something, maybe not in the first year or maybe not in the first 6 months, but as long as you keep on sticking with carnivore, you might be able to reintroduce those foods later on.
Right, and it's introducing healthy foods, not bad foods. Even
Right.
because
Yeah.
like I don't have any problems with honey or like any kind of good foods, like period. But if I get from like since I was moving last week, I got takeout from a Texas chain called Pluckers, and it was just grilled chicken and everything, nothing horrible. And I was just like, this chicken is so dry, and because my friend ordered like the one with like fried lemon pepper and everything, so let me just get a little bit of the ranch, which is I know bad soybean oil, and even other stuff I have no idea of pronouncing. And the next day I was just like, I feel so bad.
Yeah.
Probably because of the insane amount of I'm banking on the insane amount of ranch. That's the only thing I had to eat all day because, again, moving.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you got the grilled chicken, but I don't know if you know, but Buffalo Wild Wings uses beef tallow to fry in. So that's usually where I like to go if I do get chicken wings or if I'm going to go out to eat or something. It's not the best quality chicken, but it's really hard to find, somewhere where you can just go grab something to go with quality meats.
Right, and I think when it's coming to that, I think the oil that's used to cook in is probably more important than the protein source itself.
Yeah, definitely. That's what
Yeah.
I've noticed too, because I do get bad reactions with the seed oils. Like I'll get acne or bloated, and just it doesn't make me feel good. I can tell that it's like stuck in my body, and I think I actually just read today that it takes about it takes weeks for your body to actually get rid of it. It takes a really long time. I would rather do the clean oil and lesser quality meats because I don't feel, as bad of reactions as I do with the bad oils.
Yeah, it's like a hangover that just lingers
Yeah.
around. It's so bad. But yeah, I was when I was listening to Dr. Saladino's podcast the other day. He was saying that even with cheat meals and everything, which that was near and dear to my heart on a bodybuilding diet for several years, and just like it for your gut allowing to recycle and everything, and to get rid of all the stuff that's many of the things that are bad or bad actors takes about a week. So if you have a weekly cheat meal, you're constantly shooting yourself in the foot. I was just thinking, oh, okay, that explains a lot. It's way more lasting than you'd expect, because you feel bad for 2 days if you have a bad meal, and then you think everything's back to normal. But it's like, no, that's the stuff on the surface. Like your sleep might still be impacted, and all this other stuff that you don't realize that modern society has created quote unquote fixes for, that aren't really fixes. But it takes time, and sometimes it's very frustrating. But
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Time is probably the hardest part to go through when you're healing. But yeah. And so I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I can't wait to get it posted up to our YouTube and all the podcast pages. Hopefully it can help inspire somebody else to start the carnivore diet.
Okay, yeah, no, that'd be fantastic. Always want to help as many people as we can, and definitely try to get the news out to as many potential carnivores as possible.
Yeah, same here. And so is there any other notes or anything that you would like to say to anyone that's interested in starting the carnivore diet? Any tips or anything like that?
Yeah, if you're gonna start with beef. Don't be afraid. I always say to try something at least once, and see how you feel. I thought it was crazy. You might so too, but it's great. I do my daily eating and fitness stuff on my IG page at Real Brian Vincent, and it's a simplified version. Follow along if you need any kind of guidance. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Brian.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.